Hello everyone, welcome to another video. In today's video, I'll be going over my post-processing workflow for time lapses. If you're new to this channel, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button. Your support is greatly appreciated. If you haven't watched my previous video on my step-by-step guide on shooting time lapses, you can go ahead and check it out now, where I go from beginning to end the whole process of shooting time lapses. If you have already, this is part 2 of the video in which I go over my post-processing workflow for time lapses. So let's jump straight into it. So I've taken all my time-lapse photos. So I like to create a folder, and in that folder I name one raw, where I will place all my raw images, and another one called edited, which will have all my edited raw images after the export from Adobe Lightroom. So I've copied all of these images right here into the folder. All right, so we fire up Lightroom, and I usually like to create a new catalog for each individual project that I have. So let's navigate to our folder, time lapse, and I'll save my new catalog here. I'll name it catalog time lapse. I'll create that, and Lightroom will set up and open up a new catalog. We will go into library and import all the raw images from the time lapse that we just took. And Lightroom will generate thumbnails for all the photos. We'll import them all right into Lightroom, and we'll start editing them. I also want to mention that this process would be exactly the same process if you wanted to do post-processing work on hyperlapses if you shoot them in photo mode as well. All right, next thing, we will go into the develop module within Lightroom. And here we can see all of our photos. So I took 120 images because my goal is a 5-second time-lapse video. And I had set my interval at 2 seconds to take a photo every 2 seconds. And if you would like to check out my step-by-step guide on shooting time lapses, I'm linking the video right here and in the description below, so you can check it out. So now I'll go into a point in my time lapse. This scene pretty much had consistent lighting throughout the scene. There isn't too much that I need to do to adjust exposure levels. If you were shooting a different type of time lapse, a sunset or a sunrise or a day to night, or a scene where lighting conditions change quite a lot, you would have to adjust things a little bit more and try to smoothen out the exposure levels via another app called LRT time-lapse. So let's go to image 60, 61 right here, and let's edit it. I'll lower down the exposure a little bit, and darken it down, increase a little bit of the contrast. I like my shadows to be a little bit on the darker side as well. Then my blacks. Darken that image a little bit. Okay, I don't want to touch it too much. Just want to adjust it. Just a little bit. I'll go into clarity, and I'll increase that by a little. Say, increase that by 10. Let's see, dehaze it a little bit, just to get rid of a little bit of the fog in the sky right here. Okay, dehaze about 16. I think that the oranges are a little bit too saturated for my liking, so I will go down to HSL color. And I like to have them all open all at the same time, so I can see the saturation, hue, and luminance values for each of the different colors. Some people like to have them arranged either by hue, by saturation, or luminance. I like to have them all just opened up. Let's reduce the saturation a little bit on the orange, just a tiny bit. And let's change the hue a little bit, actually, to make it just a tad little bit more yellowy. And I like to increase the saturation on my blues right here, and on the blues in the headlights of the cars coming this way. So let's go down a little bit. Blue, let's see, increase that saturation by maybe like 10, and adjust the blue hue to a little bit more of a teal, just a little bit more. If I'm shooting time lapses and I'm doing post-processing work on time lapses, on still time lapses, I do not like to touch up the photo too much, because sometimes I like to add a LUT in the video, or maybe that time lapse is part of a larger video. Then I would like to match the look of that time lapse according to the look of the overall video in which the time lapse video will be in. Okay, so I'm okay with this look. Actually, it didn't do too much. Maybe I'll apply some little bit of noise reduction. 16, yeah, 16 looks about okay. All right, so this is the one image that I've edited, and because I know that for this particular time lapse, I did not have a lot of change in lighting conditions. I know that exposure levels are going to be pretty much the same from the first image to the last image. Once you have the one image that you worked on, edit it. That's why I tag it, because I know that's the one I edit. So I go to the end, I'll work my way from my middle of the film strip to the end. So I will have this image selected, move to the end of the film strip with all my other thumbnails are. Hold shift and click on the last image. And you will see that all the photos after that image that I had edited are selected now. And I will click on this synchronize button. So what the synchronize button essentially means is just copy and paste whatever attributes you have copied to the images that come after that image that you have edited. One key thing to know is that the image that you have edited has to be in that selection as well. Click on synchronize, and these are all the adjustments that I would like to synchronize or paste to the rest of the images. I'll synchronize then. We'll let Lightroom do its thing. Now that we've worked with the second half of the images, we'll move on to the beginning half of the images. So with this image selected, the one with the green label, again, we'll hold Control-Shift-C, and that brings up your copy settings window. You'll copy all of these ones, all of these attributes, and then you go to the front of this film strip. You select number one, you'll paste all those attributes to the first image, and now you'll repeat the process of synchronization. You have number one selected. Now that this one has all the edits that I had on the previous edit of the photo with the green label. Now I'll head over to where that green label is in my film strip. And this is why it's really important to color label your edited photo. So this process is a lot easier and you don't have to waste a lot of time looking for the image that you had edited. I will select all, Control A, or Shift select number one and go to the end, Shift select number 120. Right click on any of them and go to Export. Open that export setting, and I'll find that folder where my time-lapse, original raw time-lapse photos were. In this case, I had them on desktop, time-lapse. And remember, I had created that edited folder. Although we'll click on that folder, that will be the folder where I will save all my JPEGs and custom text, time-lapse, JPEGs. So once Lightroom has all the images exported as JPEGs, we'll fire up Adobe Premiere Pro so you're able to import those images. And another critical thing for this to work as well, for the import to work seamlessly in Adobe Premiere Pro and to have a quick import, is to have all your time-lapse images numbered as well. The way it's named is the same for all the images, with the only difference being the number. All right, we'll create a new project on Adobe Premiere Pro. Now in our project window, we'll double click, and this is where the magic happens. So we'll navigate to our folder, the desktop time-lapse folder, and the edited folder where all of our exported time-lapses were. And we'll select on the first one. And this works the same in a Mac as well. But on Windows, it says image sequence. So you have that checkbox marked, and you'll open, and what Adobe Premiere Pro will do is import that entire sequence of images into a video file. So it automatically pre-renders that into a video file for you. Now the only thing that you may need to adjust in Premiere Pro is the frame rate at which your media, your photo assets are imported. By default, they're set up at 29.97 frames per second. If you would like to change that to 24 frames per second or 23.976, which is pretty much the same thing as 24 frames per second, there's an easy way to do that. Under Edit, click on Preferences. Let's go to General, and under Media, in the Media tab, we want to change our indeterminate media time base. We'll change that to 23.976 frames per second. And we'll click OK. And we'll double click here again. We'll import all those time-lapse images again back into Premiere Pro. And Premiere Pro has re-imported those images, but this time as a 24 frames per second video clip. And if you double click, you can watch it. Check out your time lapse in the source monitor. And there you have it, guys. That's my post-production workflow for time lapses using Adobe Premiere Pro and Adobe Lightroom. And if you have another process on how you create your time lapses, please share in the comments below. I'll be very interested in knowing what your workflow is like. If you found this video useful, please subscribe and hit the bell button. Thanks for watching, and until next time.